Hey guys, this is Emily from Planned and Planted on the Ambassador team, here to show you guys a couple reading tracker ideas that you could use in your bullet journal. There is an accompanying blog post over on the Archer and Olive website that has a few other shots of these spreads as well as a few other ideas you can use for them. And there's also a super cool printable over there based off one of these spreads that you can use, so make sure to check that out. So I'm doing all of this in my A5 dot grid notebook from Archer and Olive. You can do these in any size of journal that you want. You're just gonna have to maybe adjust some of the layout a little bit. But you are also going to want some sort of pencil to sketch things. This is from the Archer and Olive December 2022 sub box. And then you're also gonna want some colored pens. Some of my favorites are the calligraphs from Archer and Olive. They have these like double tip, where one side is a little bit smaller and the other side is a wider brush tip. They are awesome for journaling. I really like them. Some of the spreads that I use have some Dutch doors in them. So I use some scissors to cut the spreads. And then you're gonna want some sort of like ink pen to write things. And then as always, you can add like stickers, washi tapes, scrap paper, anything you have lying around to kind of zhuzh it up and make things a little bit more unique. So the first spread that I have in here is this release radar to track any new release books. I have a little square for each month of the year, and I write down any new releases coming out that I'm really excited for. That way I can request ARCs in advance or just kind of keep an eye out for when these come out. And then because of the spacing here, I didn't have enough space for all 12, so I had a little Dutch door in the middle to add those extra 2 in, and I thought that was really fun. So this first spread that I have in here is a release radar is what I called it, but it's just to track new book releases. And honestly, if you have like a media journal, you could use this for any kind of new releases for like albums or movies or TV shows, but since this one's in my reading journal, it's specifically for reading. As you can see, I have the months in their own little squares, and I couldn't fit all 12 onto one page the way I wanted to, so I have a little Dutch door right here that I cut out to add in 4 extra months that wouldn't fit. I really like having this here because if I want to request an advanced reader's copy for a book, I know how far in advance I should request that based on when it's coming out, and hopefully don't miss my mark on that. This is my books read spread, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I use my computer and printer to print out covers of the books that I've read onto sticker paper, and then I cut them out and just paste them right in here. And I keep track of the number as well. So like I'm on book number 11 right now, and then I have little 5-star stickers to fill in my rating at a glance. And I actually couldn't fit all of these on one page either, so I have another little Dutch door here where I have the rest of the spaces, because I tend to read anywhere from like 52 to 57 books every year, and so I just logistically could not fit all of them on one page. So that's when I really love having Dutch doors like this. And if you read more or less, then you can add more Dutch doors, or you can take this Dutch door out if you don't read as many books. You can be super versatile with this one. This is my reading challenge spread, or like a reading bingo kind of thing. And I love having these in my journals just to kind of push myself to explore other genres and read outside of my comfort zone every year, because it can be very easy to just read the same kinds of books, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, but I find that when I'm reading more diversely, I am reading more because some of the books that I explore are just so interesting and things that I would never have read if I was just more lackadaisical about my reading choices. So I just love having this and using it as a reference guide to reach out to different genres and books and book types. Like I have graphic novel memoir here because I've seen a few of those that look really interesting. So this is a really fun thing. And then I fill in the square once I have completed that prompt. This is a reading goal tracker or a Goodreads challenge tracker. If you have a Goodreads, then you can set a yearly reading goal for that year, which you can do that even if you don't have Goodreads. That's just the most common place to have that. And my goal is to read 52 books this year, which that's what it's been the last 2 years as well. And I really like that you color in a square once you finish the book, because there's just something so motivating about coloring in a square. And I actually color coordinated this so that I can see at a glance that I read like 5 books in January, and I've read 5 books so far in February. And I just think that that's really cool to add this extra feature in there. This is my all-time favorite spread, and it's a bookshelf to track the different genres that I read. Having a bookshelf tracker in your reading journal isn't like super unique or new. I've seen a lot of people do it, but I haven't seen that many people track by genre. Some people color coordinate it to just track by like their review, their star rating, or they just fill it in with like an aesthetic color that doesn't really mean anything. And I actually recreated this spread digitally for you guys so that you can make one of your own to like paste in your journal. And you can actually download that in the link below or over at the blog post or Archer and Olive. So you can fill in the colors with whatever colors you want, with whatever category you want. You can categorize by genre like me, or star rating, whatever you want. This is a tracker to track both the format of the books I read and the publication year. Just like with the genre spread, I have a color key over here to color coordinate years. The last 4 years are all single years because I imagine that most of what I read is going to be from the last 4 years. And then it goes by 4-year clumps for a little bit, and then 10-year clumps, just because I obviously don't have enough space to have a color for each year. And then I have columns for each format of book that I read, so audiobook, ebook, and print. So like if I finish a print book that was published in 2021, then I add a little square under print and I add the color in there as well. And that's a really fun way to keep track of both of these things at the same time. This is my yearly stats at a glance page. I am tracking quite a few things up here, and you don't have to keep track of as many things as I do, but I kind of like having it all in one place. So I track like the number of books that I read, page numbers, how I acquired them, if they're by BIPOC or queer authors, format, and I have most of this information at other spots in the journal, but this is one place where they're all in one spot all together. And this is really handy when I'm making my like year review spreads or like reviewing my reading year. And if there's any reading goals I have for the year, this is also a really good way to keep track of those at one glance without going back and like counting everything up like throughout the journal. This is a pretty simple and standard spread. It's just a chart and a book log, and it might seem kind of redundant to have this spread as well as the one with the photos that I track of my books read, this one, but I made this one because I want to track all of the books that I read in any capacity, even the ones that I don't finish. Because if I don't finish it, it doesn't go on that other spread, but I still kind of like to know that I started it and didn't finish it, and kind of keep track of how many books I started and didn't finish. This is a spread to track the books that I own, and this is not a comprehensive list. I still have quite a few things to add, and I'm actually gonna have to add another page for the print books, but especially ebooks and audiobooks. I find that it's really hard for me to remember what ebooks and audiobooks I read because they're not right in front of me all the time like my print books are. So I really wanted to have those on here especially because I'm sure a lot of you are like me and have quite a few books that you own but haven't read. So I want to be better about that, and some of you might have way too many books for this to be feasible, so it might make more sense to have it on like a spreadsheet or a document. But I was very shocked when I went through and saw how many books I own that I haven't read yet, so I wanted to document that somewhere. This spread is pretty, not complex, but it's a lot more work than it has to be. I wanted to have a TBR place for books that I want to read, but I wanted to categorize it by the categories that I tend to read all the time. So I made these little envelopes, and I put the different genres that I tend to read, and then I have a little list on the inside with the list of books within that category that I want to read. So like you could just make a pretty simple list, like 4 different lists on these pages instead of something like this, but I wanted to go kind of hard for this, and I did, and I'm not mad about how it turned out. But sometimes when I'm looking for a book to read, it's really overwhelming to look at my whole TBR at once. Sometimes I'm in the mood for specific things, so if I'm feeling sad, then I'm like, okay, I want a grief book, so I can go to this list specifically and see what all I have in there. Or if I am feeling like I want to read some historical fiction, then I can go to this list specifically. So like I said, you can just make this a lot simpler, but I do think the idea of having genre-specific TBR list is a really great idea. So that's all I have for you today as far as a few ideas for tracking reading in your journal. Like I said before, there are quite a few other examples and photos from other creators on the blog post, as well as some printables that you can print off, so definitely go check that out. And if you decide to recreate anything, make sure to tag at @ArcherandOlive on Instagram, as well as at Planned and Planted on Instagram. Thanks, see you guys later.